My name is Inten Raven, and today on IO Reviews, I am reviewing Atomic Blonde. Holy crap, this movie. Okay, so let's talk about this movie because holy shit. Okay, this is one of those weird movies where I feel like I kind of have to give you a spoiler alert now because so much of this movie is in its ending. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna talk real generally about the movie, like kind of keep it vague, but then I'm gonna
I just can't.
kind of talk about spoilers, but not really. And then at the end, like I always do, I'm gonna give you a big spoiler alert. So let's talk about the movie. This movie does so much right. If you don't know what it is a spy movie. It is almost a revenge spy killer movie, and I'm gonna say her name wrong, and forgive me. But Charlize Theron, that's probably so wrong it makes people want to cry. She is the main actress. She plays Laureen or whatever the fuck her name is. Because I don't really know what her name is. Because honestly, her name isn't really important. Because she's kind of just a main character. And that's okay. Then we have James McAvoy playing David. I can't pronounce his last name, so I'm not even gonna try. So he's just gonna be named David. So you have David being her main co-star, and pretty much what you end up having is this revenge spy thriller action movie, and this movie does action well. Like holy shit! I don't know if it's maybe because a lot of the movies that have come out recently can't do action to save their life and they need like 20 jump cuts to jump a fence, or if just like I've been watching the wrong kind of movies on the show, and if that's the case, I apologize to you as my viewers, like having to listen to me review shitty movies, which I think are great because I have no context of what a good movie actually is, because the current cinematic field is so filled with bullshit and Marvel and men in tights that everything's wrong. But holy crap, did this movie does action right. I kind of got the feeling from this movie of, and I don't mean this to be a diss, because I kind of feel like some people are gonna see it's like, oh, you didn't think it was good, but I see it very reminiscent of the Bourne movies and of like a James Bond movie, if the female was the main character. And so I do want to talk about that. I am very proud of this movie for not pulling any punches. The fact that there's never a moment where Laureen is kind of, I'm just gonna call her Charlize from now on because fuck her actual name. Charlize's character is not punched brutally in the face and not actually, and just not thrown around like a rag doll in this movie. I feel, and a lot of people aren't gonna agree with this because of course they're not, I feel like that gives this movie so much more credits than if they were kind of just like, oh, like we're gonna push you around, we're gonna like aim guns at you, but we're not ever gonna really punch you. No, if that is where you find the equality in this movie, and that she is this character who not only is this badass action spy, but she's also treated like a badass action spy, and she's punched and kicked and has a terrible time the entire time, and I really got to give this movie a lot of credit for that. The other thing this movie does really fucking well is just keeping you engaged. Now, I saw this movie with a group of 5 people, myself included. So there were 4 of the people in this movie, and then there was me. And it was interesting walking away from this movie because we each kind of had our own takeaways from this movie. One of the big things the movie kind of talks about is that in the life and work of a spy, you can't form those deep emotional connections. You can't get close to anybody because they will end up dead. They end up being targets because of your job type thing. And because of that, there are a lot of moments where not a lot of emotion is kind of dragged out and is kind of felt And a couple of the people in my group were like, yeah, and that's why the movie isn't as good. However, I kind of feel the opposite. Because when the movie has this theme of like, look, you cannot get attached to anybody. And everyone is kind of everyone in this world of spies and espionage exists within this field of gray. And you have to remember that, as this isn't the normal. For them, this is just how they go through things. This is how they experience things. And it's very much not going to be an everyday, like Joe Schmo got caught up in some stuff he wasn't supposed to. And well, I'm not going to go into some of the more emotional moments right now, because with the specific character deaths, which you probably already know what I mean just by saying that, I feel like you do get those moments of emotion where it's like, oh, this is a grounding moment. This is a moment that sticks that. I kind of feel like those moments where it is much more of a subdued pain. It's much more of a, this is the only way I get to feel this, and even then I'm not really feeling it type pain. That really drags that point home. If that makes sense, of you can't get attached to people in this line of work. And I feel like, even though it's definitely not a way you should make a movie, which was something that was said, I feel like for this movie it works. It works because of the themes this movie is trying to provide. But to each their own. The other thing I really liked about this movie is that you can experience this movie in two very different ways. You can experience almost how I've been talking about him, like, oh, girl, hot chick, go boom boom with gun, yeah, and really have a good time with the action flick that's happening. Or you can watch or you can try to piece together what the hell is going on. A lot of this movie's job is to kind of confuse and kind of keep the audience on their toes of who is who. And the arguments between just us five that saw the movie, there were arguments of, oh, well, it was too obvious. There was who was the bad guy and who was this person and who that was that. Or there were also people saying like, no, I thought it was done really well. Personally, I feel more along the lines of, if you're looking for it, which with this kind of movie you really should be looking for it because that is the type of movie it is, then it does lean on the more obvious side. However, if you're experiencing the film, which I feel like a lot of people are going to kind of go through this film, well, like, you're all paying attention, but it's not, like, you're not grasping onto every detail of the film. It's gonna kind of be a good surprise. This movie does have its share of twist endings and almost Shyamalan. Can I say that? Is that a word yet? Shyamalan twists to it, but it doesn't feel contrived. It feels like with everything we've been given, all the information about this world we've been given, that's like, oh, of course that's what's happening. Like, duh. And the way I say that makes it sound like it's not a very exciting twist, but it is. And I'll talk about it more in the spoiler section of the review, but it's definitely a twist you don't see coming, and it's, in my opinion, worth it, even though it makes sense for the world that's been given. If that makes sense as a statement. I don't know. So you don't have a large cast for this movie, really at all. The main characters for this movie really come down to this almost MacGuffin-like thing, which we do end up seeing. So it's not quite a MacGuffin, but like it's might as well be a MacGuffin. This MacGuffin-like thing of the list, Charlie's character, David, and a Russian official. And I say that as his name because I honestly don't remember his name, and he's not in the movie long enough for his name to be memorable. And a guy named Yuri, spelled with a U. Yeah. And like a rat in a maze. So you do have your main characters, and they all kind of a little bit stereotypical of the genre they're in. But not to the point where it's like, oh, I don't need to see this. I already know everything that's going to happen. The movie kind of takes on this. It's not told chronologically, and therefore it gets to play with time a lot, which I thought was a lot of fun. Not a lot of movies kind of take that stance on their storytelling. That's what I'm trying to say. On their storytelling, and I was really appreciative that this movie did try to take that risk. And you can debate amongst yourself if you think it works. I think it does, but I can understand why some people would say that why it doesn't. That it takes away the intensity of the film, because you know that Charlize's character isn't gonna die, because she's giving an interview in the very first scene in the movie about everything that's happened in the film. So I get that argument, but I don't know. There's a lot of other characters at play here. And I don't mean just from like an actual like people perspective, but like a lot more other things that are characters, which I'm making this sound really awkward, and I'm sorry, in play. I don't know, I had a really fun time with this movie. The continuous shots for the action sequences are amazing. There's this fight in front of a movie screen, a German movie screen, where the movie is black and white behind them, and it creates this really nice silhouettes of the fight that's happening. And it's one of those moments that kind of show that the action sequences are definitely something to marvel at, especially since, at least in a lot of the movies that get hyped up and shown, they don't really shine out that much. And I think for when we're in this superhero era of movie making, I like the fact that this movie kind of took that stance on it and showed a beautiful action sequence. Now, one of the biggest criticisms for this movie, not one of the biggest, but a valid criticism, that's more appropriate, a definite and valid criticism, which makes less sense, is that there are some moments in this movie that feel unintentionally funny. And I think the biggest moment for that, at least for our group, was this fight between the main character, Charlize's character, and this Russian goon that seems to take almost forever. And the guy just pretty much keeps getting back up, even though he should very much be dead, or at least unconscious on the floor. And they kind of end up both stumbling and kind of falling down in the middle of their big action fights. And yeah, it did get a couple of giggles from the rest of the audience, but I feel like it's that kind of sequence, that kind of moment in this film that shows, right, these aren't superheroes, these are people. Don't you ever shut up! Which, however, is completely undermined by the next scene, where this guy has taken a corkscrew to the neck, has taken all this abuse, this Russian goon, and then jumps on top of a moving car, gets shot 4 times, falls off the car, gets back up, gets run over once, and then gets run over again to finally kill him. So, I don't know what exactly the movie was going for. And that kind of brings me to the spoiler section of the movie review. So if you're gonna see Atomic Blonde, which I highly recommend you do, it's a fun movie, and I think it's a really good instance of modern day cinema getting action sequences right, and not just being jumbled, edited together messes. Definitely keep your eye on it for that, and let alone for all the spy espionage and all the awesome things that I was tied up in this movie. I want to talk about the spoilers. So if you're still here at the end of that ramble fast, you don't give a shit about the spoilers. So let's talk about the spoilers. Okay. So a big part of this movie comes in the form of there is the spy for the MI6. Charlize's character's organization. And pretty much this spy has been ruining everything that the MI6 has been trying to do, and it's kind of created this bigger than should be allowed problem for the MI6. So half the movie kind of gets broken up into save the dude, save the MacGuffin, and find the traitor, and dispose of the traitor, kind of. So when you find out that, and when it comes down to it, David has been has been kind of directly pointed to being the traitor named Satchel. And on this MacGuffin called the List, one of the things that this list has, it has all the names of all the operatives that have ever worked for the MI6, along with all their code names and anything that might lead a person to picking up their ID shits, along with code names. And we're kind of led to believe that our guy David here is Satchel, the big traitor. Turns out he's not, and it's actually been Charlize's character, the main character, the whole time. But plot twist ninjutsu again. Turns out, while she is the traitor for the MI6, she actually works for the CIA. So not only was she working for the KGB and MI6, she was also working for the CIA. So she's a triple, not really triple, single association agent spy thing, which kind of muddles things. And it's easy to get lost and confused when all this shit kind of comes out in the last 10 minutes of the film. But even a bigger problem than that is what this means for the rest of the film. Because it is in fact Charlize's character that turns out to be the traitor. She's the one that gives up her boyfriend at the beginning of the film. She's the one that gives up all this other information, and you end up having this moment where she finds this love interest in the French operative Davine, I believe her name is. I could be wrong on that, and definitely wrong in the pronunciation. But with the French operative, she forms this this romantic relationship with her, and she's given this moment after she gets killed by David, who again we have been led to believe is the traitor. She kills David for giving up, for killing Davine, who at this point we've been led to believe has told Charlize's character that David is in fact the traitor. Do you see why it's confusing? So she kills, after we find out that Davine is dead, she sits down by the body and has this moment of, at this point, which has only been the real emotion she's given. Everything else has kind of been, she's going through everything numb, and she has to do this because it's her job. With Davine's death, we kind of get this genuine human moment out of this character that's been told, if you feel, everyone dies. But with the reveal that Charlize is in fact the traitor, it robs this moment of what otherwise was this really emotional moment into, oh, she was just covering her ass, and there really isn't a reason why we should care about this because she's just covering herself. And it's not an emotion thing, it's my actual identity needs to stay hidden thing. And that's just a real shame, especially when you had the opportunities to make those moments really cool. Another moment that it kind of butchers in the same way is this revelation that David is the villain. Because when you really start to piece everything together as you're watching the film, you kind of see that there is no way he could be the villain. Otherwise, there'd be no reason for him to even be there in the first place if he's the villain. Nothing would get done, and everyone would be able to figure him out pretty quickly. And there are all these signs throughout the movie that kind of clearly point to Charlize's character being the traitor of the MI6. Moments where in the beginning of the film she's like, hey, why aren't you taking me to my hotel? And David going, I thought you've never been in Berlin before. And she kind of gives this response of, well, I can read a map. And if you're not putting any much thought into it, yeah, I mean, she can read a map and she's a spy, so it makes sense. But after seeing the end of the film, it kind of gives this, oh, that was a really obvious clue type thing. And there's very easily this argument gets made that, well, you know the end of the film, of course you can see it. Of course you can see it then, but I don't know. I feel like it's a movie that's very easy. It's easy to get lost in the action, and that very well could have been what happened while it's watching it. But I did want to make that note. All in all, I feel like it's an amazing film. It's a film that nowadays we need because of the oversaturation of these action movies we get, where everything is so cut up and jumbled that there's no pretense of, oh, this is an actual fight that's happening. And just for that reason alone, I feel it's a movie you should go see. Isn't as emotional as it could be, and as it is in the beginning of the film. At the end, no. And that's probably the movie's greatest weakness, that it's not as strong at the end as it is in the beginning because of all these plot twists that kind of come through. But all in all, I loved this movie, and I had a really great time with this movie. I think the fact that we have this badass female spy is going to be really good for female actresses' roles. And I hope that this movie is seen as a way of people saying, oh yeah, we can make these movies as long as we make them good. And that's definitely something I want to see in the future. But other than that, I don't have anything else to add, and I hope you guys go see this movie and kind of tell me what you thought in the comment section down below. Do you think I'm talking out of my ass and I'm just giving this movie way too much credit for what's essentially a dumb action flick? Or do you agree? Do you agree this movie has a lot of hearts and a lot of good things to it if you're looking for that specific thing? I've rambled long enough. This video is far longer than I thought it was going to be. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye-bye.